Good afternoon, everybody. We want to get started so we can get you out of the sun. So I would ask Officer Clement Feet come up, please, and give us an opening prayer.
You could all bow your heads with me. Lord Jesus, we're gathered here today in your sight, standing before you as your called creation. We are here to honor those who have elected to answer the calling of law enforcement. And today we give you all the honor. We thank you for the communities that we serve, the public who has entrusted us to serve, and for all those who have paved the road of this profession before us with their blood, sweat, tears, and sacrifice. We thank you for the protection that have covered those that are standing here today, and for the opportunity to honor those who have continued to answer the call of law enforcement professionals. In Jesus' name, amen.
Earlier this week, we did honor all the officers and staff of the Borough Police Department. I'll just read you a quick letter that was sent to them all. And with the letter, we sent what we call a thank you for their service. And on the back, in front of it, it says thank you for your service, but on the back, it talks about what it means to be appreciated by your community. And all of you are here to pay these men and women their respect, and especially to their chief. So the letter reads, Somerset Police Officers, on behalf of the Borough Council and the Borough Manager, we want to express our appreciation for the bravery and heroism that the Somerset Police exhibit each and every shift. Your unwavering dedication to upholding the laws makes Somerset Borough a better and safer place to live. As your mayor, your efforts do not go unnoticed, so I want to express my deepest gratitude for everything you do, and this is an important part, and for the sacrifice of your family, which deals with this every shift you're away from home. God bless all of you. Thank you for serving and being the professionals that you are. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies. As you know, is Mr. Shaw here? Would you come up, Mr. Shaw, please? This is Mr. Robert Shaw, and I've asked him to come up and say a few words. This is the gentleman whose house burned down on Clark Street. And this is one of the reasons we're honoring 3 police officers and 1 civilian. So Mr. Shaw, if you'd like to say a few words.
First of all, I'd like to thank these ladies and gentlemen behind me. They're great. They serve the men in blue. They serve us. I'm gonna cut this short because I'm not really a good speaker. I'll just give you an example of the 3 heroes that are back here when my house was on fire. When I realized the house was on fire, I went outside and called 911. I'm cutting to the chase a little bit. I'm cutting it a little short. Officer Hussein was sitting there in the car right at the telephone pole, and I thought, wow, he must be listening to the 911 call. But what he was listening to was my mother hitting her beeper. He was in the apartment downstairs. Well, he came up and he said, is there any people in the house? And I said, yeah, there's 3. And he said, where are they at? I said, well, my mother's down in the basement and I got 2 babies upstairs. He said, well, take me down and show me where your mother is. So I did. And without 1 second of stopping, kicked the door down, and in he went into the black smoke and the fire. At that point, I went up to the top of the house and I got the 2 babies out, the 3-year-old and an 18-month-old. But he couldn't get in through the living room, so he went in through broke the window out, and he saved my mother. Officer Borowski, the sergeant, and Eric Gross helped take my mother up to the ambulance, and then they helped Officer Borowski with some breathing and what have you. But he saved my mother's life. Without a 1 second of stopping, he went in that fire, and there was no, I just can't thank him enough. I guess I overspoke my piece, so I thank all these ladies and gentlemen up here. Too bad that people they don't celebrate them across the country like we do here. Thank you very much. God bless you all. God bless these all.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. I would then like to ask our acting chief if he'd come up. Together we want to make these awards, and you want to say a few words first.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. The Somerset Borough Police Department, our public safety partners, elected officials, our valued local citizens, as well as the family and friends of the department, recognize 3 law enforcement officers within the agency for valor and meritorious performance that was put forth in great protection and trusted service to the community. 3 courageous officers, without hesitation, put forth significant effort and assumed high levels of potential risk to their own safety in order to preserve human life. The preservation of human life is one of our core values and proudly stands in our department's mission statement, value statement, and exists within the oath that each one of our tremendous officers proudly takes upon hire. The awards for valor and merit and Chief's Commendation are the highest recognition the Somerset Borough Mayor's Office and the Office of the Chief of Police can offer. These officers are certainly deserving of such an honor. Acts of merit and acts of valor are both types of law enforcement officer decoration that recognize exceptional action by department members, but differ in their focus. Acts of merit typically recognize outstanding performance, achievement, or service. This can include acts such as leadership, skill, or dedication in the performance of duty. Both demonstrate exceptional qualities that contribute to the overall effectiveness of the Somerset Borough Police Department. On the other hand, acts of valor are awarded for acts of bravery or heroism in the face of personal danger. These actions often involve risking one's own life to save others, displaying courage under fire, or performing extraordinary acts in dangerous situations. In summary, acts of merit focus on exceptional performance and service, while acts of valor recognize bravery and heroism in the face of danger. Both types of decorations honor the extraordinary contributions of law enforcement officers in different ways. Somerset Borough Mayor Frederick Rosemeyer will now present the Medal of Valor to Officer Kevin Huzek. Officer Kevin Huzek, for his actions on March 26, 2024, Officer Huzek engaged in the search for and the rescue of an entrapped female from a burning residence. Officer Huzek's actions contributed greatly to the preservation of life and were taken without regard for his own personal safety. This Medal of Valor uniform bar insignia is presented in recognition and gratitude for service that has displayed a dedication to duty, his profession, and this community.
It is an honor to shake hands to a real hero. People don't realize he got into the fire and saw the grandmother sitting on her bed, went to save her, talked to her, and carry her to the window. But what people don't realize, he couldn't get out that window. He could get in after he broke all the glass, but he couldn't get out because he was being overcome by smoke and he was getting weaker. This is where we are honoring two other officers who actually saved his life. But it's an honor, though, to present to him that award, well deserved. And I think we also have, Chief, if you would, which one is which here?
Just give them the medals. I'll do it.
Yeah, here. Thank you very much. It's an honor to know you.
Somerset Borough Mayor Frederick Rosemeyer will now present the Medal of Merit to Sergeant Stephen Borowski for his actions on March 26, 2024. Sergeant Borowski also engaged in the rescue of an entrapped female from a burning residence. Sergeant Borowski's actions contributed greatly to the preservation of life and were taken without regard for his own personal safety. The Medal of Merit, accompanied by uniform bar insignia, is presented in recognition and gratitude for service that has displayed a dedication to duty, his profession, and the community.
Want to say a few words? Or? That's right.
Somerset Borough Mayor Frederick Rosemeyer will now present the Medal of Merit to Officer Eric Gruce for his actions on March 26, 2024. Officer Gruce engaged in the rescue of an entrapped female from a burning residence. Officer Gruce's actions contributed greatly to the preservation of life and were taken without regard to his own personal safety. This Medal of Merit, accompanied by uniform bar insignia, is presented in recognition and gratitude for service that has displayed a dedication to duty, his profession, and the community.
One of the mistakes, these all look alike, but this one, the valor that we have to give to him again, is extremely a beautiful piece of work and well deserved. Again, thank you.
Additionally, each of the responding officers that engaged in the search for and rescue of the entrapped female from the burning residence will receive a Chief's Commendation. The Chief's Commendation is a formal statement and declaration of praise by the Somerset Borough Police Department's Chief of Police for 3 SPD officers, Huzek, Sergeant Borowski, and Officer Gruce, who in fact performed admirably on March 26, 2024. All 3 will now be presented with a certificate of Chief's Commendation. Officer Eric Gruce.
What's your read? What's your read?
The Chief's Commendation reads as follows: awarded to the officers that are to receive them for his actions on March 26, 2024. In this case, Sergeant Borowski engaged in the rescue of an entrapped female from a burning residence. Sergeant Borowski's actions contributed greatly to the preservation of life and were taken without regard to his own personal safety. This commendation is presented in recognition and gratitude for service that has displayed a dedication to duty. Sergeant Borowski. Officer Kevin Huzek will also receive the same Chief's Commendation that is reflective of what was just stated in the presentation to Officer Gruce and Sergeant Borowski. Officer Kevin Huzek. The mayor is now going to present a citizenship award to one of our valued citizens and good Samaritans that helped us the day of the fire.
Mr. Bowman, are you here?
Where's Jeff coming from?
This is the first time we have honored a civilian, but he was very quick to respond and to assist. And we really appreciate it. I'll read the Mr. Bowman, during the fire in Clark Street, you became one of the heroes of the day, taking care along with our officers to save Mrs. Faulkner's life. Your teamwork, fearless effort to help the Department of Police and to go is not going unnoticed in your community. On behalf of Somerset Borough, we thank you for exhibiting the great respect to human dignity. Again, thank you for performing a relative ease under an emergency. We thank you and congratulations. Nobody wants to talk. We also have our senator and our state rep here. And if the senator would come up with, Pat, would you please? You're going to talk, aren't you?
Maybe. Mr. Mayor, thank you. These fine ladies and gentlemen that stand behind me, and those that are standing over on this side as well, there's no greater honor than for someone to give of themselves for their community or for others. And I know you've charted your course. You took your classes, you did your studies, but then you came out and you served, and you continue to serve. For that, I am grateful. And it's wonderful to see our community come out and say thank you as well for all that you do. As Representative Metzger and myself would say, we battle in Harrisburg on all different fronts, but this is one where most of us are all united. Thank you for your service. Thank you for those who run into danger when those of us are running away. We greatly appreciate your courage and your continued support of the community in keeping us safe. So with that, on behalf of the Pennsylvania State Senate, I say thank you so much.
Our state rep, Carl Metzer, has also wanted to offer his support to his community officers. Carl?
Thanks, Fred. I didn't know I was talking. I thought Pat was doing the talking for us tonight, but that's okay. You know, I always like whenever foreigners come to America because they get confused by us. You know, we're cowboys to the rest of the world. You know, that's the part that's a lot of fun. But you know, that spirit, the cowboy spirit, is really what makes this country great. And these three gentlemen have piles of cowboy spirit, and they were willing to run into a burning building to save somebody they didn't even know who it was. And for that, I think that they are the essence of what is America, and I'm really thankful for them. And you know, that is what will keep this country great. And so I thank all three of them and all the other ladies and gentlemen that are up here keeping us safe on a daily basis. So thank you.
County Commissioner, oh, there he is. As you people know, our county commissioner here used to wear a uniform. as the gentleman in the back are. First responders are ready to help anybody in this community anytime. So I'll turn it over to the commissioner.
Thank you, Fred. As Fred stated, my career in law enforcement is one that I am very proud of. But I couldn't be more proud than I am at this moment, standing in front of my brothers and sisters. What these gentlemen did is incredible. And to answer the call the way that they answered it and perform their duties the way they performed it is the measuring stick for all law enforcement. We at the county have a proclamation here for these gentlemen. Whereas the Somerset County Board of Commissioners today recognizes Somerset Borough Police Officers Kevin Husick, Eric Gruss, and Sergeant Stephen Borowski for their heroic actions in the line of duty that saved the life of an elderly Somerset Borough resident from a house fire. And whereas on March 26, 2024, Somerset Borough Police Officer Kevin Husick responded to the scene of a rapidly spreading house fire in Somerset Borough. And whereas after a search of the house, Officer Husick quickly realized that an elderly resident was trapped in the burning structure with flames blocking her ability to exit through the rear door. And whereas, without regard to his safety, Officer Husick broke the glass and crawled through the frame of the bedroom window to reach the woman in an attempt to rescue her to get her to safety. And whereas, upon arriving on the scene moments later, his fellow officers, Sergeant Stephen Borowski and Officer Eric Gruss, were able to assist Officer Husick in the physical rescue of the resident and get her to life-saving medical help. And whereas after the physical rescue of the woman, Sergeant Borowski and Officer Gruss were able to extricate Officer Husick, who was struggling to breathe from smoke inhalation, safely from the burning building, selflessly coming to the aid of their colleague. And now, therefore, the Somerset County Board of Commissioners commend with respect and gratitude the heroic, selfless actions of Officer Kevin E. Husick, Sergeant Stephen Borowski, and Officer Eric Gruss in the courageous act of saving the life as they responded without hesitation and utilized their training to save a life. Adopted this 20th day of May, 2024. Signed by myself, Irvin H. Kimmel Jr., and Pamela A. Tokar Ickes. And with that, I can't offer any more gratitude than already been expressed today. Thank you, gentlemen, for everything that you do.
Thank you, Commissioner. One of the things that was so unique of these first responders and of the first responders are out there is training. No better trainer than this gentleman here, Randy Cox, has elected to retire from service. And it's our honor to have some people to come up, and I can't tell you how many people wanted to come up and say a few words, but without his knowledge and training, these guys wouldn't be heroes, but thanks to him, they are. So, we have our district attorney here, Molly Wears. This is the part of the program that is very important to this whole community because you're losing a leader and a damn good cop.
Very sincere thanks to Mayor Rosemeyer for putting this special event on. I think we need more of these happy events, more of these events that honor our dedicated officers. One of the best parts about my job is I get to work with every single law enforcement officer in the county. And I'm happy to report that we are very fortunate to have the best officers. With that being said, there's 4 individuals that we're here to honor today specifically. First, to our 3 law enforcement officers that rushed into a burning building. Each of these 3 have their own amazing personality, their reputation, and a great set of stories, but I promise I'll hold the stories. I won't tell too many. Borowski, he's the veteran of the station, the old hand, even though he still only looks 29 somehow. Bruce, he is single-handedly one of the most intelligent officers I've grown to know. I will give you a little story about him. He was actually one of my first hearings. He had filed a case against a very unruly defendant that had violated her protection from abuse. She came to the hearing incarcerated. She represented herself. She denied everything, even her own name. So that was very challenging for us, but he kept us all calm. He got us through it. And Huzik, he's the man that never sleeps, right? I can't say it enough. It's seemingly so. He's boundless energy. He's always there to help. I can attest that the morning after the fire, he checked himself out of the hospital so that he could go out with the task force the next morning. It was incredible to me. These gentlemen, they all share a common thread though. They were willing to risk everything for someone they didn't even know in the face of a threat that had the capability to be fatal. But I put to you that these great gentlemen, they risk their lives in the face of peril every single day. Every time they go to work, every traffic stop, every encounter, every moment that they place themselves in jeopardy on our behalf could be their last. This single incident that we've been speaking of today, it's not unusual. It's not unusually dangerous, but they willingly place themselves there every time. And for that, on behalf of the county, I thank you all. I would be remiss though if I didn't point to the one man that brought it all together. I know it's obvious, but we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Somerset Borough's great leader, Randy Cox. Chief Cox has put this task force together, no doubt selecting each and every one of these officers for their own special traits and skills, building this team. They all complement each other in the most perfect way. He has always cared about our community above all else, all while continuing to be a devoted father and husband. We're lucky to have had his dedication to our community and leadership in this department, and we know that it's in the great hands of Chief Apple that he has placed it in. Thank you.
I do want to tell a little story out of this incident. I went to the hospital, and when you walk across the parking lot, and you know you're going to see your staff in an emergency room, I was a little leery. It took me like 2 days across that parking lot. But to walk in, and I got to walk in first, I went into Kevin's room, and his lovely wife was standing right next to him. And I asked him, because he was still coughing after a period of time, and I asked him, how are you? How do you feel? What do you need? And Kevin gave me a hope that I believed he was okay. He was sitting there with a hamburger about this big. And he says, boss, I'm hungry. And him and his wife and I, we just stood there and laughed about it. Very unique. So I then went over to Sergeant Borowski's treatment room. Guess what he had? He had a chicken sandwich. And I thought, my goodness, guys, you're okay. So I left the hospital. And about an hour later, I wanted to call them because I knew they'd be at home. And I called Sergeant Borowski. And I hear in the background police radio. And I said, Sarge, where are you? I'm thinking he's at home drinking a beer watching Judge Judy. But no, he's at work. He says, oh, boss, I got these reports. I'll be at the school all day tomorrow. I have to get these reports done. And I thanked him. I then called Kevin to see how he was, because he was still coughing when I left him. I hear a police radio. I say, Kevin, where are you? He says, well, I'm here at work. He says, I have to get up early tomorrow. I have to get a clean uniform while I'm here. I have to clean my weapon, and I have to get ready for the early morning task force. We're making a raid in town. He should have been home, drinking that beer, watching Judge Judy. But that's the kind of people that's behind me. Not only these two and these three, but all these people in blue. And that's why I always wear a hat that says, Blue Lives Matter. So our next speaker is the superintendent of schools. Krista has always come here to speak and thank our officers, and it's an honor again to have her back.
Thank you, Mayor. I have to say, when I learned that 3 officers went into a burning building here in the borough, I wasn't surprised at all. I've had the privilege of getting to know these men and women for many, many years, and their bravery and their integrity is absolutely amazing to me every day, not just on the days when they perform amazing heroic acts that are reported in the newspaper, but every single day that I get to interact with them is a blessing to me. So I would like to have a round of applause for every single first responder that is here, both those that are currently serving and those who have served, because I think that they're not appreciated in this country nearly enough. So if you wouldn't mind in joining me, I think they certainly deserve it. Mostly, I do want to say that it is truly a privilege to be here with you this evening to speak in honor of someone that I truly respect and admire tremendously and consider a colleague and a friend, Chief Randy Cox. As a school administrator, there are a lot of responsibilities that weigh very heavily on our minds each and every day. But none of those responsibilities weighs more heavily than keeping our community's children safe while they are in our care. I had met Chief Randy Cox prior to becoming superintendent in the Somerset Area School District, but it was not until my official appointment in the 2010 school year that I really learned to know our chief. As is evident to those of you who know him, Chief Cox is a commanding gentleman with a deep voice, a tall stature, and the most impeccable professional knowledge and demeanor. Our chief is a superior master of the law, a veteran officer, a skilled law enforcement trainer, a student of the precursors and responses to school violence, and a forward thinker with a keen eye on prevention. Most of you here know that the Somerset Borough Police Department and the Somerset Area School District have enjoyed a cooperative agreement for the department to provide school-based officers to the district throughout the school year for many, many years. These services and this model are unique in many ways, largely due to the significance the chief places on this duty. While it is likely that the school assignment is probably, hopefully, not as challenging as the officers work throughout the community, the chief and his department regard their work in the district with the utmost importance, which is probably the very reason they do not face the seriousness of the encounters they see out on the streets every single day. Under the chief's leadership, the SPD officers have created the most unique balance between respect, rapport, and relationships with our students and their families, which has resulted in a safe and healthy environment within our school buildings. The chief has emphasized and his department has responded to his call for them to utilize their expertise to assess the district's protocols, personnel, and facilities for safety and security concerns on a daily basis. The chief and his officers know our students, our faculty and staff, our schedules, our routines, and they know when something is out of place. Without qualification, Chief Cox has made the safety of the students and staff in the Somerset Area School District a priority, just as he has served our community with the conviction, integrity, and persistence. He has been by my side during some of the scariest and most challenging times of my professional life. Never making me feel like the civilian in the room, never minimizing my concerns, and never dismissing even the smallest of my questions or uncertainties. Without hesitation, Chief Cox has been accessible to the district 24/7, 365, never hesitating to respond to me, even every September when I reach out to him during the one and only vacation he takes every single year. The only time this man ever misses work, I call him every September. I'll try not to do that this year since you are officially retiring. Literally, the man never misses work. He could be coughing up a lung and he is still on duty. Chief, you have served this community and your school district with the utmost integrity. You are a man of the highest skill and character, whom I consider a mentor, a role model, and a friend. If a man's success in life is assessed by the difference he has made in the lives of others, you have reached the highest pinnacle of achievement. The Somerset Area School District, the Somerset Borough Police Department, our community, and our lives are better for having been in your orbit, and I am forever grateful for that blessing. I thank God for you. On behalf of the Somerset Area School District and the Board of Directors and every single family and student and faculty member, I would like to present to you a few things. We have some cards signed by our faculty and our student body. A lot of names I'm sure you know personally because you take the school beat many, many times. I know. This is a small gift from our faculty. And I'd like to present you with this award for exemplary and loving service to the children, families, community, and the Somerset Area School District, presented to Chief Randolph G. Cox, Somerset Borough Police Department, May 20th, 2024. I know you didn't graduate from Somerset, but you're always going to be a Golden Eagle.
Thank you, Kristen. Those of us that work here in the borough, and as the chief did, have many bosses. One of the nicest one we ever had is Michelle Enos. Michelle?
I thought it was going to be a mistake if I followed Regina, but it's no better following Krista. So I just wanted to make this very short and sweet because all these officers behind me and the chief and his family know already how I feel about them. So I'll start off with my first initial memory, which Randy and I talked about this a few weeks ago. So I remember meeting Randy Cox back in 2004 during the selection process for a new chief of police. So he and his wife, Janie, decided after we selected him, Borough Council had selected him, the official appointment at a borough council meeting they came to. So we wanted to make it really special for him. We thought, wow, we'll present him with a cake, which should, they're already laughing. So, which we were so excited for. It was supposed to proudly read, "Congratulations, Chief Cox." So this must have been the time before the bakery would show you the final product. So we hand him the cake, we open the lid, and it says, "Congratulations, Chef Cox." And from that point forward, he knew there'd be just a little bit off around here. We would be just a little bit off. So I wanted to make the evening, I actually wanted to make the evening special by it. This is not something I normally talk about, but I am the daughter of a retired police chief. I was very proud of my father and the challenges that he faced as a police officer. I was concerned for him. I was protective of him as well. I have also a built-in respect for what police officers are required to do to perform their jobs and to keep the public safe. I also saw firsthand the personal sacrifices that came with that position. So I applaud all who serve in this role today, especially during the climate in which they're facing in today's world. When you serve a public role, you understand that the decisions you make have an effect not only on your coworkers and your staff and your community. That is a heavy responsibility for all of us to carry. And most often, we take it home as well because you don't stop being a public servant at the end of your business day. So I wanted to thank Randy and the police officers for that time, that commitment to our community and to each other. The borough departments have always had a mutual respect for one another. We have helped one another while respecting the responsibilities that each one of those carries. Our council members and mayor are supportive of us as well in our efforts. So I wanted to say thank you to the officers, but also Randy, as our chief of police. I wanted to thank you for standing up, sticking together, partnering, and forging forward with us for the benefit of the community and to get to a better place. I know this was not the road you expected to travel. However, remember that we together will continue to stand with you, stick with you, partner with you, and forge forward with you to get through these difficult times, to get to a much better place. I want to personally thank you for your support over the last 20 years, and I want you to know the badges and the ribbons we wear tonight represent our support, friendship, respect for the position, the person you are, and the fight ahead that we share with you. Thank you.
Moving along, we would like to have our president of Somerset Borough Council, Pam, to come up and also say a few words on behalf of Randy and the men and women in blue. Pam?
Thank you. I was telling myself I was going to cry, but I already started, so I'm not sure how this is going to go. I first off want to thank all of them standing behind, and especially officers who are recognized tonight. It's an honor to be a part of that and to be a part of this community. I was born and raised here, and I would like to recognize the austere career of Chief Randy Cox. We were lucky enough to hire him back in 2004 after he did a stint in Seven Springs and Ligonier, and I have the distinct honor of being the daughter of who hired Randy Cox. My father served on Borough Council for many years prior to me, and he had a lot of positive things always to say of Randy. And if he was still with us today, I'm sure I would hear a lot more about that.
He is a graduate. I'm going to give just a little history for those who don't know. He is a graduate of IUP, and then he also is as well as the PBI National Academy. I didn't want to get that wrong. So the FBI. The FBI. So he also serves as an instructor, and I know they mentioned earlier about training. He also has served as an instructor at the Westmoreland Community Police Academy, which has sometimes been our pipeline for new officers. So we appreciate all of that. 47 years as a police officer is a long time. I can only imagine the stories he can tell and what he has seen. Yeah. But we want to thank our chief for a lot of the improvements we've seen, and Krista covered the one, and that is the school program. But just in my years here, just what I've seen grow and change from the resource officer to, I work for UPMC Somerset and have been there for many years. They helped us, a lot of these officers back here helped us as well with before we could actually have a police unit in the hospital. The help they gave us was incredible. And the response time, if you asked any of our staff in difficult situations, the one thing they always say is how fast any of these men and women behind me responded to us. He developed necessary positions within our police force. He also grew under him the Somerset Night Out. Also the bicycle police officers, motorcycle officers, those things all came about. There's just too many to list. Thanks doesn't seem to be enough for me tonight, and but I'm proud that my dad hired you. Not only have I tried to make my father proud, but I've been stuck trying to make him proud as a borough council member and as the president. He and I have worked together on a lot of things and have worked together very closely, and I have always appreciated you, Randy, so thank you.
Is the chief of police from the valley here? There he is. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. I'm probably the only one who didn't write anything down. I want to be sure that everything I say actually comes from the heart. And I've been thinking about 10,000 things that I could say about Randy. I started in '93. He was my first chief, my first police department leader, mentor. I'm going to say, I can't say this enough. Randy's been there still to this day as me being now the chief of Ligonier Valley Police, which is at the time he started, it was Ligonier Borough Police Department. He taught me so many things of community-oriented policing. One of the first things he had me do was go around town and give me all the emergency list of talking to every business in town to get information from them for call-outs, for break, whatever we need them for. You know, he just taught me those kind of things. Still to this day, the uniforms that I see the officers wear, I'm still the old style wearing like they do, and all the other officers want to wear tactical vests and everything else. I think they look so professional standing up here by far. And I see that in the leadership of Randy, because that's how he leads. Professionalism from day one and forever. We actually spoke about some things. This is the Ligonier crew over to my left. We've had a lot of talks about Randy, and still to this day, we operate our department relatively how you led us and how you left us in 2004. I was sad to see it. I would have been great and happy to be underneath you still to this day, because as you know, all the situations I've dealt with in years past, situations with management, situations with calls, and I've always reached out to you. And you're right, whoever said he answered the phones, he actually still answers for the old Ligonier Valley area as well. He's left Ligonier Valley with a organized department the way we were, and like I said, we kept that organization. And I always said, And we always actually say, we bring Randy's name up all the time. How would Randy handle this? What would Randy do? Guess what? If I called him, what would you do, Randy? And he led me to the right thing, because I knew he would, because of his leadership and him being a mentor. That's really all I have to say. Randy, thank you for leading me to the career that I've been at. I hope to retire soon, but certainly you've put a lot of officers and touched every officer in my region, for sure. You've trained every officer in my region at one point or another, and that shows the leadership. There's not a person out there that I wouldn't talk to that said you had part of their life, and you've been a part of my life for sure. Thank you.
Chief Jim Clark was to be here to speak about Randy, but we got a great substitute. Mr. Cook, where are you? Henry Cook, ladies and gentlemen.
The police department and the fire department not only share a building, but we also pretty much share a mission. And thank you guys for crossing the line to do theoretically our territory with fire. Thank you so much for doing that. Chief Cox, I have never had a disappointing conversation with you. You are a pleasure to talk with. I remember one time we were standing, I think up towards the Diamond, and I was bemoaning that the fire department had climbed to more than one fire call a day. We run in excess of 400 fire calls a year. And somehow we need to get that down because we are totally volunteer. And we talked about it a little bit. Next thing I know, the police department has stepped up and they're triaging fire calls. And I believe that it has saved us dozens, maybe even over 100 turnouts, which for a volunteer group is really a tremendous benefit. Just fantastic what the police force does for our community. I do some teaching in a school. Krista said about their presence. I'm just overwhelmed that we are keeping our young people safe. Thank you so much for setting those priorities, Chief. Thank you.
This next young lady does so much for our community in many different ways. And before I introduce her, there's two people in the back that I think have to get recognized. And that's our sheriff and his deputy that's with him there. They were some of the first responders there at that house. The police, Kevin was the first one, and sure, right after them came your sheriff. He was there along with the deputy to help out in many different ways. And I also want to say thank you very much for being there. So I would like to have Regina come up. Again, this is a lady that does so much for your community. Regina?
Thank you, Mayor Fred. Rosemeyer. Hard to follow. It would be impossible for me to capture the impact Chief Cox has had on the growth of our community, the growth of Somerset Inc., and in my personal growth in my career and life. Oh my gosh. Okay. Chief Cox, you've left an indelible mark on Somerset. You encouraged us to challenge perceptions. We sometimes think that we can't have the community of the 50s where kids run on the sidewalks and play and and feel free without parents following them with furrowed brows and worry. I have literally seen the transformation from furrowed-browed parents frantically clutching the hands of rowdy kids and elderly folks hustling to cross streets. I see their newfound smiles, their relaxed faces. They belong to you and exhaustive safety plans and the support of the officers who understand the importance of community and connection and relationships and living in your community safely. The joy of thousands of people who attend our events, Light Up Somerset, Chocolate Block, Fire and Ice, the joy and reprieve of community connection that these events provide has only been possible because of your safety planning, guidance, and leadership. Truly, this force, which you so carefully constructed and oversaw, is the backbone of Somerset. The often unsung heroes, addressing threats and concerns before they become disastrous and approaching difficult situations with firm compassion. Firm compassion. This is one example you have set for me. I've seen the compassion of this man firsthand on more than one occasion. Whether it was entertaining the delusions of town characters while escorting them to less disruptive locations, or personally addressing one of the most uncomfortable situations of my life, or standing beside Michelle and I as we made sure that the community was safe yet again for a community gathering. You taught me that protecting and serving is really what happens behind the scenes to create a better quality of life for everyone. Quality of life begins with the foundation of safety. It is the basis for business, for community, for moments of joy. I'm so grateful for all that you've taught me and for all the time and energy you gave to preserve and protect moments of good in Somerset. Moments of good for our children, for our families, and for all of us. As you move forward, I pray that you will receive all the love, compassion, joy, and care that you have poured into Somerset for all these years. Thank you, Chief Cox. You're the best. You really are.
Well, this is the part that I think is very special. We have a lot of leaders out there in the community, but the greatest leader I ever worked with is right here. And I'd like Randy to come up and have the closing words, if you would, please.
I did not prepare any remarks, so forgive me if I leave something important out that I should have included, but failed to do so. There's one of the things. This really is a tremendous day, because if you look behind me, all the officers are wearing their hats. I don't know who made them do that. I have ideas. And you may never see them again, with all of them again together with their hats on. But ladies, gentlemen, I do sincerely appreciate hats. Mr. Shaw, I can tell you that not only these three gentlemen, but every lady and gentleman up here would have done the same thing had the need been presented to them. That's not to take away from anything you folks did, but that's something that runs through the department. Krista, you were talking about the officers in the schools. One of the things after the tragedy in Texas, we had a meeting, and it was made clear, and the officers accepted, that what happened in Texas, that type of response, which costs the lives of students and teachers, will not happen in Somerset. And I think these officers have been very true to that model. Not that we've been attacked, although we have. uncovered potential attacks and dealt with them appropriately. But it leads me to say that as the schools go, just serving this community has been a privilege. It's something I learned from my late father-in-law, who's an Episcopal priest in Ligonier. When someone would thank him for what he did in the community, his response always was, "It's a privilege." And it truly has been a privilege to be here, as it was in Ligonier. These Ligonier folks, are you all together over here? All standing around together? Yeah, Tom, if you'd raise your hand a second. Tom was here nearly 20 years ago when I was sworn in. So he was there for the welcome chef Cox cake. He and a bunch of other Ligonier friends have come up, and I'm honored by that, and I appreciate the way our friendship continues. We may not see each other all that often, but we both know that type of friendship is there. There are so many people here that I would really, really like to acknowledge and to thank, but I'm going to take a cop out on it, because I'm so afraid I will miss someone. Who I don't want to miss for sure, though, is my family. My wife, Jan, my stepson, Mac McKay, his husband, Lance Davis, their friend, Nick Harrison. I'm never really sure what Nick's name is. He comes in, sometimes I think surreptitiously from Canada to visit, so I'm never sure quite what he's up to, but I can be sure his first name is Nick. Our dogs are here today because Bella, the pit bull, recently had surgery and can't be left alone for fear she'll take off her dressing. Andy can't be left at home alone at all. So, and he's needed, but I think they've been very good so far. So, I didn't prepare anything. I hope you know the gratitude I have for this community. I hope you know the pride that I possess for having served this community, both with these men and women behind me and with these gentlemen down here in the lower right corner. I see school officials here, I see hospital officials here, and business people here. I'm just very touched. It's bittersweet for me, but I know that we have a home here, and we thank you for that. And I think that'll do it. Where do you go? Okay.
As I've been told many a times by my wife, behind every great man, there's that lady that's nagging the hell out of you. But you folks keep us alive, and this is no exception. We have a very lovely lady sitting here next to her husband, and we also want to honor her also. We have one other item of business. If I can find the chief. There it is. This, all it is an empty box. You got it? We have here a beautiful clock to put on his mantle or wherever, and it reads, like I can see it. The Chief Randall Cox. The Somerset community thanks you for your 47 years of professional police service. You have always exhibited great respect for human dignity and maintained justice and equity in all your operations. It is my honor as mayor to say thank you, Randy Cox. Randy was like a father to me in many ways. He kept me in line for the last year and a half. But what's unique about Randy, his respect for his officers and his community is unbelievable. And everybody in blue behind me and other police officers that are here and the sheriffs, they would say the same thing. And I say, thank both of you, your lovely wife and your family. Very special time, and I still carry my dad's badge. He was a police officer also for 40 years in Pittsburgh, so thank you, my friend. I know you like sitting out there in the heat, but I have to say that we're gonna close for now, and I'll ask Officer Upton to close it with a prayer.
Would you bow your head and join with me in prayer? Dear Jesus, first and foremost, we pray that you will keep your hand upon Chief Cox, Lord, that you bring strength and health and healing to his body. Lord, we are so thankful for your abundant grace and mercy that we enjoy each and every day. And we are further thankful for your protective hand that rests upon each and every one of us as officers that serve our community. We ask your continual blessings and protection as we continue to promote justice, protect our community, and restore order from chaos. We ask that you will walk with each officer on every shift and walk with them through each call they face. In your precious name we pray, Jesus. Amen.
There's some cold water up here because I know you all want to drink. I would like to say it's beer, but it isn't. So I wanted to say thank you for this community, to thank him and the people behind me. Thank you for being here.